Alright, something different today. We've got a point of view roller door motor installation. We're swapping this one over actually. The manual release has failed. A bit of a safety hazard as you can see. You can't unlock it, which is no good. So from my point of view, let's swap it over with a new Merlin Silent Drive MR655 motor. It comes with two remotes, a wireless wall button and everything you need in the box. So some tools you need, not too many. We're going to start with a rope ladder. Click up the top there to see how one of those are made. Very handy and quite essential for roller door work. Now I've got an impact driver. It's actually a 1/2 inch impact wrench, I believe, with a long extension, which you most likely need one of those. And this door has 13mm nuts. So I've got my long socket on there to match. Otherwise, if you've just got a hand ratchet, you can just use a hand ratchet like this one. It will do the job just nicely. It'll just take you slightly longer and you won't have a hand free, which is quite handy, just like with the impact driver. A lot harder to retension the door as well. So that's how you loosen the nuts with a hand ratchet. You'll see why you need the long extension now to get past that motor. But before you undo those nuts on the motor side, go across to this U-bolt and make sure this one's very tight, because you don't want that one coming undone while you're undoing the motor. That's the only U-bolt and bracket that's holding the spring tension on the roller door. So make sure that's nice and tight. Just like that. That's all good. Now we can undo these nuts on this U-bolt on the motor side. Now I'm going to swap it over to my impact driver. It's a lot quicker and I like having a hand free. It's a lot safer as well, I reckon. Plus I'm used to it. Alright, let's get this cord out of the way. Might as well unplug it while we're here. Then you'll be able to see better as well. And now because we can't release the manual release, just make sure there's enough room there as well to lift the door off. So we've got one nut off the U-bolt and the second one comes off very easy. Won't need those anymore. Alright, and yeah, you might need to grab yourself a step ladder as well. This comes in handy for the job. But onto our rope ladder. You're going to need this to hang your door off of if you haven't got a stand. It saves you putting your door up and down on the bracket unnecessarily. It's easy to service the door as well with one of these. If you get into trouble, that'll also save you as well. So that U-bolt should come off. It makes life a little bit easier. I probably could have taken it off, but there's enough room on top of the door to lift it up. So by yourself, this is how you lift the door off the bracket. Get underneath of it, either with your hand, or I like to do it with my shoulder, but I'm using my hand so you can see what I'm doing. Just lower it down, it's quite safe. The bracket has a lot of flex in it. Now they do recommend to prop the door under a ladder or a stand. The reason you take the door down this low is to make room between the shaft and the motor, and then it slides off quite easily. Just like that, pop it on the floor, if you can reach. Now, we need to put our rope ladder to hang the door from on the bracket. That fell off my shoulder, it's just down there luckily. So hook your rope ladder over the bracket, just like that. Then pop one of the knots over the shaft that roughly line up with it. And then just hang your door off it. It's quite safe to hang there for as long as you need. A pair of vice grips or something on the shaft will make it a bit safer again. I've never had one slip off, so I don't normally put a clamp on it. Yeah, that looks worse than it is. Alright, the next step I like to do is lubricate the springs. I'll just go and grab my torch so we can see. There's my trusty Tala torch. I'll show you that a bit later from Bunnings. So there's the big spring inside. There's one on each side of the door. You need to lubricate those so it doesn't get noisy. And the door runs a lot better as well. How to fix a squeaky door, just tap up the top there. I'll show you how to do that and how to service your door properly. So just spray the spring with a grease spray. Get the best one you can afford, and then spray a bit on the hub as well. That'll make the door turn around the shaft. So there's our Tala torch. It sticks anywhere. It's got an awesome strong magnet. A couple of different modes. There's the part number. Flips out 180 degrees as well. And they're quite robust, as you can see. So you're pretty sure I got this from Bunnings. Dropped it a few times. It hasn't broken. USB rechargeable too. Okay, let's go and see what's in our box of Merlin goodies. The MR655. We've got an instruction book, or a couple of pages of it. Pretty much tells you a few more tips on how to install the door. It's very basic. I'm giving you a few more tips to make your door run a lot better. Doesn't include servicing in this manual. That's a very basic way to install it. Have a read. Either get a specialised stand or your ladder to pop it up on. The rope ladder is very cheap and easy to make. There's your weight bar. About 1.5 kilos of weight. If you haven't got a motor already, you'll need that. Get rid of that sticker. Won't be needing that anymore. I don't even think he's around. So there's a weight bar already attached to this door. We're going to keep that one on. A couple of key fobs. And there's a parts bag you'll need to install the motor. And an awesome wireless wall button. You can stick anywhere in the garage or in your home to operate the garage door. This is an awesome addition to the new Merlin motors. It's a nice big button at the top there to operate the door. And finally, we've got our roller door motor to operate the door itself. Won't do much without one of those, will it? It's my favourite part, peeling off the sticker. Nice and shiny, look at that. Now the motor's locked in at the moment, so we want to unlock that by pulling the manual release. Make sure your ring gear is free to turn, so we can slide it over the spokes on the drum wheel. It's fairly compact and lightweight. Might need a friend to help you out. Otherwise, if you've got a decent sized hand, you can hold it pretty easy. You've got to slide it over one of those spokes there in between the forks of the motor drum. So I like to put this door on my shoulder. I was going to just pick it up, but I should be able to put it on my shoulder and still film. Remove your rope ladder and simply slide the motor on. You might need to lower the door down a bit again to make room between the wall and the door, and then slide the forks over the drum wheel. Make sure it's on properly. Now we're just going to lift this straight up onto the bracket because at the moment there's no shaft to hang on to. The door has slid down the shaft a little bit, but remove your rope ladder. That's job done. Now the door is a bit crooked, so we're going to fix that. Just open your parts bag and get the parts ready. I don't normally use the coning clamp. You can if you like. We don't need it. We do need the U-bolt set up and the nuts and washers though. We're just going to grab our ladder so we can get up there. And straighten out the door a bit easier, a bit more height. There's a lot more room on the other side compared to this one. It's a bit tight up here though. That's our U-bolt setup. Slide that on top of the motor and the shaft and into the slots. Now most of the time you'll have your door inserted into the front half of the bracket. Check the lead in after. I'll show you what that is and how it leads into the track. So you want to put your washer and then your nut on, bottom of the U-bolt. Got 2 sets of these. There's one done and the other washer and nut hopefully goes on easy enough. Tight squeeze. That went in first shot. I normally drop it and spend 10 minutes looking for it. Alright, see that door's not lining up with the track at the moment, so we're simply going to push that back along the shaft and push the motor in to match. That's our motor on and the door is in rough alignment, so we're going to tighten that U-bolt up. That 13mm long socket to match the nuts on your U-bolts. Alright, tighten up the nut on the U-bolts, both of them. Now go across to the other side. It's a bit easier to see over there. It's still a bit crooked, so we'll just close and open the door and that should realign itself. So as you can see, it's a bit sloppy at the moment too. The door needs some spring tension. There's a couple of bits of nylon felt there popping off. Pop them on, always check that. The door's a bit stiff and heavy still, which means we've got to do the spring tension. As you can see, if I close it manually, it just drops really hard. So that means it's going to be quite heavy for the motor to lift. It's going to wear it out a lot faster, and it's a bit unsafe to use it manually. So let's lubricate the other side. The spring and the hub needs some lubrication. So we know that's all done. And then we've got to do the spring tension. So we want the door running optimally so we know how much spring tension to add. We need to grab our Stilsons out now, also known as a pipe wrench. This Irwin one is very grippy. That grips onto the pipe or the shaft. So two choices. We're going to take the easy way out, of course. Obviously the impact driver. It's much quicker and you can use it one-handed. You'll see why it's a lot safer and definitely a lot quicker than using a hand ratchet. So yeah, make sure that U-bolt's still tight. You always want to double check, never assume that it's tight. Then we can loosen our motor end, or opposite end to where we're tensioning from. Then we can go back over it and turn our shaft from that end with more room. Yeah, it is ideal to strap the door up, just in case you slip. We can put a pair of vice grips on the track, in case it does lose tension, it won't drop down suddenly. Right, now we need to adjust our Stilsons to the right size of the shaft, a bit more, until it fits on nice and snug. Once they're on, pull down securely, make sure that's not going to slip. Now we can loosen our U-bolt while holding the Stilsons, because that's going to want to fling upwards with a fair bit of power. So once you've loosened the U-bolt, pull down, that's about half a turn on the shaft, and tighten the U-bolt up. Lock it back on again so we can close the door, just in case the shaft slips, it'll just hit the ceiling. Hasn't let go yet. Right, so that might need a little bit more tension. It's not quite running as free as I'd like. So we're just going to add a little bit more spring tension. So undo the U-bolt while pulling down on the Stilsons, and the door will want to follow the same path as the shaft goes. Because the shaft is attached to the spring and the spring is attached to the door. That's how spring tension works. Okay, should be pretty good. That rolls down fairly neutrally, but it doesn't slam into the floor. It holds its own weight. And yes, that spins up a lot easier. The door is perfectly balanced now. Alright, what's next? We're going to tighten up the U-bolt on the motor side, but first I'll check that lead in. So around here, make sure the door is leading into the track, not too close to the wall, otherwise it'll get stuck. You want a nice curve into the track, just a small V shape between the door and the track. Just tap that bracket over a bit so it's straight. So just tighten up the U-bolt on the motor right there. And that's basically our motor installed and door serviced. Now you can wipe out the tracks and apply some silicone spray, especially if you live near the beach. Might do that after, we'll see. This door is running very good. Alright, next step. I like to shorten the cable for the manual release, otherwise the wind's going to blow it into the track and it's going to get jammed. I've seen that before. So this is the MyQ accessory brochure, a bit of Wi-Fi connection that you can get with your Merlin roller door motor. We'll just slide the handle up, tie another knot into it. Leave the safety tag on there, that just tells you how to use the manual release. You might get new owners here or something like that, and you want them to know how to use it. Trim the cord off. Now the manual release is still easy to reach, but it's not going to blow out into the wind and get stuck between the door and the track. It's a bit of a safety hazard. That's our antenna. Don't chop that off. Plug in our motor and tidy up the cable a bit. Now we're ready to set the limits. I've got a video on this, but I'll run through it with you again. Make sure the manual release works too. That's the whole reason we're replacing the motor. It's a beauty, that works fantastic. So lock the motor back in, switch the power on, and I'll show you how to set the limits on this Merlin MR655. It's the same on most Merlin motors. Sectional and roller doors are set up very similar as well, especially the roller door motors. They have the same control panel. So you want to hold your finger on the P button. Now the motor is factory set for a right hand side. If you want to do left hand side installation, press the S button and the two outside orange lights will flash. Because this is on the right hand side, we'll leave it at the factory settings, which is number 2 and 3 lights flashing. And then press P to move on to the next step, which is set the limits. I think it's P for program. You want to set the top limit first by holding down the green up button until the door reaches just below the stopper. I like to leave a small gap here, so you're not putting any pressure on the gear system or the door, and everything will last a long time. Now press the P button to set the top limit, and then the down limit button will flash. So hold the red button down Won't be needing that sticker. This guy's going nuts with his stickers. I do get a lot of work from stickers actually, so I better put one on later. Right, keep holding your finger on the down button until it reaches the floor. It just squashes on the weather seal. Now this concrete hasn't been cut very good at all. There's still a bit of a gap under there. I'll just go up and show you why that is. Whoever done this footing or concrete, done a bit of a crappy job. Ideally it should be cut out a bit more on the side. Just drive the motor down until it hits the first point of contact then. And then press the set button, which is P. That will set the bottom limits. Now the door wants you to drive it up, which will automatically set the force margin or the sensitivity of the motor. So if it hits an object, it will cut out at its optimal setting. Now drive it down because the down light's flashing, and that will set the down force margin or sensitivity. It's a bit of a smart motor, this one. Super easy to set up. Right, that's the final stage. The motor's all set up now. Just close that cover. We'll check out the wall button, make sure that works, and mount that somewhere inside the garage or the house, wherever the customer would like it. Then check both your remote fobs. These will come pre-programmed, which is awesome, bit of a time saver. Both remote fobs are working great. So there you go, that's how you install a roller door motor from my point of view. Easy as that. You might want to grab one and do it yourself. Stay safe. I'm that roller door bloke, thanks for watching.